Heroes from the Trenches. Stories forged in the fires of experience. ESCO's materials are utilized within hundreds of schools, wholesalers, and other training entities across the globe. Learn more at escogroup.org. All right, everyone. Thank you once again for joining Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC podcast. So we spent a lot of time here at ESCO talking about careers and opportunities in the trades, particularly in the building sciences, HVAC, refrigeration, electrical. There's so many things happening. So we're hanging out with my incredibly close friend, Daniel Mendoza. Brother Mendoza, how are you, buddy?
Doing all right. Thank you for bringing me in.
Well, you know, you have such an interesting perspective on our industry, and I want people to know that. I want people to hear it and be able to talk about this experience, because not only did you find HVAC, like many of us did, you actually made an entire trip here and then found it. So you started your life in Venezuela.
Yes.
And was very professional in what you do. A lot of people don't know that, you know, they know Daniel Mendoza, this like really good HVAC contractor and like tech guru, video editor. They don't know that you have like a amazing musical background. And many of us that are very passionate, very organized people have music backgrounds. I mean, that's just something about it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It gives you a different flavor, a different perspective into all the things. It kind of spills over. They say that it makes your brain, you know, the left brain and the right brain work better or something like that. And it's a form of art, just like painting, anything else.
It is. So that form of art kind of moves into the career. So let's talk about, you know, coming to the United States, starting a new life here, and then your reasons for moving into HVAC. We got to know this story, and we have to share it because it's very real and it's very interesting at the same time.
Yeah, well, the way that it went down is I used to be a musician. Venezuela, of all places, has one of the most successful musical programs in the world.
Oh.
And actually, there's a conductor, very famous, so people have probably heard of him, as Gustavo Dudamel. He's actually one of the world best conductors, like most famous. You could probably Google it. But anyways, he actually was in orchestra there, along with a bunch of other people that are playing all around the world. And I was part of the Venezuelan youth orchestra that traveled around the world. When I was little, I was probably like 15, 16.
Really?
Yeah. And
you were the cream of the crop.
Kind of. They did a selection, the auditions all like nationwide, and they selected like 6 clarinets, 4 oboes, and 20 violins and all that kind of stuff. And I made it. I was one of the only 6 kids nationwide that was selected to play in the orchestra. Yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely were the cream of the crop.
I used to play clarinet, but the funny thing is, like, I wanted to play saxophone because of The Simpsons. Yeah. You know how Lisa plays the saxophone. And that's what I wanted to, what I wanted to do, and that's how I got introduced to music. So my brother, a bunch of friends, a bunch of people were involved in the orchestra. So some of them ended up moving to the United States to a small school in Massachusetts called Atlantic Union College. It's like a 500 student school. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And they had scholarships and things. And at some point, my brother talked to the director of the music program. He said, "Hey, my brother plays really well. What are the chances that he can come down here with a full scholarship?" And that's what happened. I ended up moving to Massachusetts in 2005. Yes, 2005. I was almost 21 back then, and that's kind of how I came to the U.S. I had a full scholarship in small school, playing in orchestras and clarinet and all that. Yeah.
Right. So at what point along the way, because I think same way, I went to college for TV, radio, film. I was playing in French horn in the ISU Symphony. Mm-hmm. That was my gig. I was a brass player.
The French horn is so hard to play. It's one of the hardest things. Yes, it is.
So I played French horn and trumpet. I still got a flugelhorn and trumpet here at the house. Every once in a while, like for nostalgia, I'll break out. But what I realized was that was my passion, but not necessarily a profession. So how did that go for you?
Well, what happened is that to make a living as a musician in the United States is pretty hard. Yeah, you have to either be a teacher or be famous or something of that nature. And, you you know that programs that get caught in schools usually involve like sports, extracurricular activities, and music sometimes goes out the window as well. So
Right.
the job security is not necessarily the best thing ever, and not to mention that you don't get paid too much. So at some point, I have to decide what to do with my life, and I have to switch gears, and I have to decide what to do. I ended up moving to Michigan because the school that I was at actually went down the drain. They something happened financially, and they lost their accreditation. So I've been bouncing around all the place, just like most people probably. Things
Right.
happen in life.
Especially at that age, you're like, oh man, I'm good at
Yeah,
what I'm doing, but can I make a career of this? Can I
career
make a
out of this.
living? Yeah.
One of the things that was funny, and a lot of people that can listen to my story, they probably relate, is that I used to be really good with my hands. I
Right.
just fixed anything. So if you're one of those people that can, go to somebody's house and there's a pipe that's leaking, and then you fix it, and then you fix electrical things, you know how to configure your stuff. I don't know. I realized that I was very good with my hands, and I had a bunch of credits from a school. I went to university in Venezuela. I had the credits from Massachusetts for the school, and I ended up going to Michigan to Andrews University. I also had a bunch of credits there, so I had like 200 credits, and I didn't have a diploma. I didn't have a degree.
Wow.
So in order for me to specialize in computer science or in chemistry or anything, I had to take 2 more years of schooling,
Right.
and I wasn't about to get $40,000-$50,000 of student loan
Yeah.
debt to,
Deeper. Yeah.
yeah, get deeper in the hole, so to speak. So I told my wife, we were dating back then. I told her I need to figure out what to do, and I thought about the funny story is this: my neighbor in Indiana, we lived in Indiana for a little while.
Hmm.
He still does air conditioning, and one day he came to fix our system. It was a furnace, split furnace, and I thought it was very interesting. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Right. Just intrigued.
And yeah, I was intrigued by all the wires and the motor and the whole
Yeah.
thing. I just kind of
Like,
looked
man, there's a
cool.
lot going on in this little box.
Yeah, so I told my wife, look, we want to get into real estate. Where are the things that are really expensive to pay for? One of them is roofing, and one of them is air conditioning.
Sure.
And I knew I didn't want to be a plumber. I don't know. It didn't look too interesting to me. I didn't want to be an electrician. Didn't look super interesting to me. And then I was like, air conditioning is kind of cool. You have electrical stuff, you have mechanical things, you're messing with refrigerants and stuff.
Plumbing,
And yeah,
math,
plumbing,
calculations,
it's just
measurements, a little bit of everything.
a little bit of everything. And the funny thing is that now that we got into real estate and we have some properties, what's happened is that I can virtually do anything.
Yeah.
I'm a contractor
Yeah.
just
You
because of air conditioning.
diversified yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
based on the experience. So that's kind of what made me decide to go into the trade, was that I had to figure out what to do with my life. And I knew I kind of didn't want to be a musician. And that's what I ended up doing. Yeah.
Okay, so you get to that point in life, you're spending time with your girlfriend, going, all right, we're going to make a life together. I want to be a productive, contributor to this family, this relationship.
Yes.
I don't know that music's going to pay enough. I don't know that we want to go deeper in debt just so that I can, get a
career.
a degreed career. Let's look at these options. I think, man, that was kind of interesting on HVAC. What's the next step? I mean, it's interesting, but like, where do you begin?
Well, what happened was we were bouncing around. Again, I came originally to Massachusetts. Then we moved to Michigan. Then I moved to Indiana. It was like half-hour distance. They're right
Sure.
next to each other. And then my wife got a job here in Tennessee, and I didn't have much going on down there.
Right.
I actually worked for a little while for Conn-Selmer there in Elkhart, Indiana. And a lot of people know about Conn-Selmer. It's like one of the last manufacturers of musical instruments in the United States. So I worked there for a little while, and I didn't have much going on. And my wife said, "Let's just move to Tennessee," and that's what we did.
Right.
And I came here. I was okay.
Were you chasing a woman?
No, I've always been with my wife, up and down.
No, you chasing her career.
Well,
what you want to do? You're like, I'm gonna go wherever you want to go, baby.
That's right. I'll go anywhere you go. So
that's right.
I went on Google and I was like, "Hey, where can I go study air conditioning?" And I found Chattanooga State. They have the TCAT program down there.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
1-year program. They have the
Tennessee
morning.
College of Applied Technology. It's one of our HVAC Excellence accredited programs.
That's right. And that's funny because the first time I learned about ASCO is because of Chattanooga State. And, there were, flyers and things around or things on the wall. And that's, I ended up taking the EPA the 608 certification down there through ESCO, of
Through
course.
ESCO, yeah.
But yeah, so I went there. I talked to Houston Graham. He's a shout out to Houston. He's a really
Yeah,
cool
very
dude.
well respected gentleman in the industry.
He is the man. And I remember I met him, and I was like, "My name is Daniel. I'm going to come to the air conditioning program, and I want to become one of the best technicians this city's ever seen." I tend to be a little bit extra, so I don't know why I did that, but that's what I
Right,
did.
right.
And yeah, I just went through the program. It was 1 year long. It was gruesome in the sense that I was working with a local air conditioning company. I was getting paid like very little, and so I was waking up like at 6:37 in the morning.
Putting a full day in, then going to school full time.
Yes, sir. So I
Mm,
was rolling 13, 14 hours a day. That really tested my levels of energy and patience.
sure.
But yeah, that's what I did. I worked and went to Chattanooga State for the TCAP program for a year.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so go through TCAT along the way. What did you find? Did you find that HVAC was absolutely the thing, or were you still questioning what you're going to do when you grew up?
It was very interesting. I
Mhm.
this is like a funny story, and I want to encourage people like to look into it. You don't have to start with any kind of knowledge. To be honest, I didn't know anything about anything.
Right,
All
but you
that I
could.
knew is there's a hole in the wall that I plug for the TV and my laptop, and I charge my phone. I didn't even know about 120 volts, 240. I didn't know anything. I
Right.
just knew that I wanted to do air conditioning. So the first day, Houston comes and says, "Hey, can somebody draw the refrigeration cycle on the whiteboard?" And being me, and I raised my hand. I was like, "I'm going to do it." So I remember I drew a house, and I drew like a package unit with a rain shield and everything. So that's a refrigeration cycle, and I kind of laugh a little bit. But
Right.
imagine that I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
That I drew a
It was just a
house.
box. It was a
I
magic
might as
box.
well you have I might as well just have drawn in a window unit that.
Mm,
So yeah, that's how it started. And as we went into the topics and started learning about the refrigeration cycle, the electrical side of things, it was fascinating. It was pretty interesting. Yeah.
right. So I know personally, I know that it
Mhm.
didn't take you very long before you decided, you know what, I've actually gotten pretty good at this in a short period of time. I think I'm even going to start my own business.
Well, partly what happened was typically, I think most people, it goes this way. You're in the program. As soon as you get your feet wet and you understand more or less how it works, you can get to a local company and say, "Hey, can you hire me as an apprentice? I'd like to get because if you're
My
reading the
feet wet.
book and you're not doing it, you're
Right.
not going to. There's a weird gap
Yeah.
between reading the book
Yep.
and actually doing the
I got the
stuff.
fundamentals, but now I need the legwork. I need to be able to get out, get my hands on it, and see it out in the wild.
Yeah. So I started working for a local company. I worked there for about 3 months. I didn't feel that I was being appreciated. And again, there's another lesson to learn from this is that if you work at a place and you don't like it, there'll be another place that will hire you and they will appreciate you. So don't get hung up that my first job experience was bad and I don't like it. Just find
Right.
another
Give up on
place.
the career. Don't give up on the career.
On
Put
a hiccup like that, yes.
exactly.
So after the 3 months, I actually went and talked to Houston again at Chattanooga State, and I was like, "Hey, do you know of another company that is respectable? I want to be honest. I want to take care of people. I'm not all about pushing units on people and all that." So he told me another old company's been around for like 40 years. So I applied for the job. They gave me the job, and I love them to tears. It's still rolling to this day. But one of the problems that I noticed immediately is that they were stuck in the 1980s
Technology wise,
or something. Yes.
yeah.
So I mean, some people, you can skin a cat in 5 different ways. It's fine. I get it.
Right.
But I remember, like, why don't you use a GPS? Back then, the Garmin GPS, the one
Yeah.
you put
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
windshield, it
Right.
was all in the thing.
Right.
So yeah, you have to know where things are. I'm like, no, I don't. I have a GPS,
Yeah.
and using flip phones or sticky notes for stuff. I was like, do we
Right.
have iPads? Can we use the internet?
Right.
Can do
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff? And they
Yeah.
just
And then
talk
come
to me.
digital gauges and all
Oh
the
yeah,
technology into the industry.
I was the first one and the only one to buy the latest and the greatest.
Yeah. I could see that.
I've always been a tools nuts. Is
Yes.
that how you call it? Yes. And I think that tools help you a lot. Anything that can help you cut a little bit of time here and there is essential, because if you do the same thing 100 times a day, if it takes you an extra minute, that's 100 minutes of your way. So,
Right. Think about
anyways,
how much you can cut down. No, I mean, it's what it comes down to.
so
Go
I
ask an
remember
accountant. When was the last time they used a scratch pad and a pencil for doing their calculations and not a
it,
calculator
just don't do it
or
anymore.
computer?
So
Right.
at some point, I started getting frustrated because you go to a customer's house and you go when was the last time we came here? What did we do? How much we charged? And as you can probably imagine, familiarize with, you go to a customer's house like 6 months later, and they say, "You were here last week. You just changed that. It just broke." And it's like, "No, I was here 6 months ago, not last week." It's that kind of
Right.
stuff. You have to use technology for your advantage. And at some point, I decided to split up and just do my own thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what happened.
Which turned into a very successful business in your area.
Yeah, man, it was. I just bought a van. I started with $27,000. So we had a property, we sold it. I grabbed that money. I bought a van, and it was empty in the inside.
Right.
It was a rental, I think. It was a Nissan MV 2500.
Right.
So I had to put the shelves inside. I have to
Oh, you
put
had
the
to fit it all.
all the from scratch. Then I have to fill it up. So I dropped like $10,000 just buying all the stuff in the inside. Man, now that I look back, I'm like, wow, that was quite a bit of work. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things we want to talk about is there are so many different avenues, and finding the resources and connecting with other people who have had the experiences that can feed your own curiosity. That's what we're here for. We're here to
Yes.
make sure that you learn from people who have had these experiences. So if you step back and you think about it, what things would you have done differently, or what things are you very proud of that got you where you are right now?
Well, one of the first things I regret is that I quit my job and I went to buy a van like 3 weeks later. And
Yeah,
the first thing they said was like, where's your employee? Do you have a W-2? Do you have an employment?
right.
And I want to buy the van.
Right.
Well, if you have a
I'm the
job,
employer.
yeah.
I'm the
The funny
employee and
thing
the
was like,
employer.
hey, you want to buy a van? Well, the interest rate is like 2% if you are your own person, but if you buy it and you don't have a job, it's like 10%. That
Yeah.
was the first mistake that I made. It was very expensive. I should have bought the van, parked in my house, and then quit next day. I didn't do that. Things that I would have done. This is one of the biggest mistakes that I made. You have to nowadays. You have to focus, and even back then, quite a bit on your presence. You have to realize you're going to have to compete against everyone in the industry. So I built a website with a friend of a friend, and I thought that by building the website, it would work
It would just
automatically and just
come.
show up on Google.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know anything about SEO,
Right. Here's my
that kind
sign. Everybody come see it.
of something like that. So a long time went by, and I just kept asking the guy. I was like, "Hey, why am I not showing up on Google?" And he said, "No, just don't worry about it. It takes time. It's just how it is." And like 6 months would go by, and we're like, "Hey, what happened? Dude, I'm not showing up on Google. Like I have
Right.
127 5-star reviews." No, it just takes a little bit of time. Just don't worry about it. Then like 2 years later, I found out that you were supposed to be doing a bunch of stuff. So I lost 2 years of SEO, internet presence, and all that because I didn't do that. You
Right.
have to, from the get go, you have to start pumping, messing with the Google, the internet, and all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, you just don't exist. Um, but yeah, that was one of the challenges. Something that probably makes me proud of from the company from the get go. I knew that I didn't want to take advantage of customers. I didn't want to rip them off. I probably had thousands of service calls. At the end, we had over 400 5-star reviews on Google. So in 3 years, I didn't have one single person, one out of thousands, to say, "Oh, you charged me, you didn't fix it. Oh,
Exactly.
you ripped me off." You didn't. Not one time out of thousands, no one single disgruntled customer that went to Google to write a scathing review about my no, didn't happen once.
Right.
So I think that if you have your mind right and you know what you want to do and you believe in yourself, you can do it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. There are so many stories to tell, and we want to hang out with you and talk about these. Are you a technician and you're thinking about, man, maybe I am ready to make those next steps? Well, come hang out with us at the National HVACR Education Conference. Grab some time. Go, hey, Daniel, let's go over to the side here and let's grab a iced tea or cold beer or whatever our choice is, and let's talk about things and let's make connections. And that's really what we're here to do. We're here to encourage you to lift you up and to help get you the resources for whatever stage you are in your HVAC and refrigeration career. We've been down different paths, and we all come together for this, to share our stories, to share the things that we've learned, to talk about the heartaches and the heartbreaks, but also to motivate and tell you how to do things right.
Completely, for sure. Now, awesome. We started the podcast talking about music and stuff in the background, and it's very interesting. I think that music helped me when it came to troubleshooting and stuff, because I could listen to I could hear a unit from afar, from like 100 feet, and I can tell if the compressor sounded weird.
The frequencies.
Yeah, and but it's not only music. I met guys in the that work in air conditioning, and sometimes they have a background, they were mechanics, or they worked as anything. It doesn't matter. Like, you'll be amazed how you can transfer or translate some of the skills that you have into something that you may not think that it matters, or it's just. So I don't regret spending several years of my life doing the music, because I think that some way it kind of helped me a little bit along the way. Yeah,
I agree. Daniel Mendoza, newest member of the ESCO teams. So proud to be working with you, my friend, and look forward to all of the fantastic opportunities that we get to do together and all of the knowledge we get to share.
Awesome.
All right. See you later.
See you later.